When I first got into the industry, one of the things that stayed with me was how the conversation around security kept focusing on tools, systems, and technology, and not really on the humans that were sitting behind the screens making decisions every day. And that's what led me to becoming interested in the psychology of why people behave the way they do online. So why they click on phishing links, why they might share passwords, why they might bypass security controls, even though they know that they shouldn't. And the answer was almost always, context, pressure, cognitive load, or fear. And it was that curiosity that led me deeper into what's become a real passion.
For someone new to the space, how would you explain cyber psychology and why is it becoming a critical thing in today's threat landscape?
Absolutely. So it's essentially the study of how human behavior intersects with technology, specifically how that intersection creates both vulnerabilities and opportunities in the security space. So the way I like to think about it is the vast majority of successful cyber attacks don't tend to happen because somebody's cracked unbreakable code. They happen because somebody was manipulated, deceived, or simply overwhelmed.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cyber Weekly. Today we are having an interesting guest, Lisa Ventura. She's one of those people who her beginning in cybersecurity is unconventional, but here she is. And yes, I'll let her tell us a little bit about herself and why she's fit to talk about cyber psychology and AI. Welcome, Lisa.
Hello there, thanks for having me.
So tell us about yourself and how you got into cybersecurity, for starters.
Sure. So I've actually been in cyber now since 2009, but I actually came into the industry from a journalism and broadcasting background. And a lot of people actually find that quite surprising when they hear it. I'd spent years working in radio and television, and specifically working with the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire here in the UK, Chris Tarrant. And I think that gave me something that I think is really undervalued in cyber and tech, because I learned how to listen, how to communicate technical and complex things simply, and crucially as well, how to connect with people from all walks of life. So that's how I got into the industry. And I started off by joining an organization called Titania Limited. And I got involved in all aspects of that business, and then moved on to working in cybersecurity awareness and culture change programs. So I do a lot in terms of training employees and staff to be more cyber aware. I also do a lot as well in terms of cyber psychology, and more recently, AI is in the mix on this. And I've just had my first book published on AI and cybersecurity. I've also founded the AI and Cybersecurity Association here in the UK, which is the first known trade association that sits at the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. And I also previously founded the UK Cybersecurity Association. So I've had that hands-on experience of building those communities, building membership bodies and trade associations. I also speak at events. I also write articles, take part in things like this. And I just absolutely love it. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
Wow, you've literally made me rethink my life decisions, but it's okay. So, Lisa, your career spans from cybersecurity, psychology, AI, and advocacy. What originally pulled you into this field, and how did your journey evolve into such a human-focused approach?
Well, I'll be, hands up, and I'll be honest about this. I didn't consciously get into cybersecurity in the first place. It wasn't an area that I looked at and thought, oh, I like the look of that and I'd like to get into it. I actually got into it because my ex-wife, she was very high up as an ethical hacker penetration tester. And I was always fascinated with the work that she did, although because she did a lot of high profile government work and work with the Ministry of Defence and so on here in the UK, she couldn't tell me a lot about that work for confidentiality reasons. but I was always fascinated with the psychology of hacking, of, apart from the monetary aspect, what drives hackers to do what they do. And crucially, why people fall victim to social engineering, phishing emails, etc. And so when she founded Titania Limited and I had the opportunity to join the business, that was my first step into the cybersecurity industry. And once I was in, I was absolutely hooked. I knew I didn't want to do anything else. And I took all those skills that I mentioned in my introduction because they transferred into cyber in ways that I didn't expect. And when I first got into the industry, one of the things that stayed with me was how the conversation around security kept focusing on tools, systems, and technology, and not really on the humans that were sitting behind the screens making decisions every day. And that's what led me to becoming interested in the psychology of why people behave the way they do online. So why they click on phishing links, why they might share passwords, why they might bypass security controls, even though they know that they shouldn't. And the answer was almost always, context, pressure, cognitive load, or fear. And it was that curiosity that led me deeper into what's become a real passion. And over the years, it's
Could you
shaped
break it
everything that
down,
I've
by the
done.
way?
Sorry?
Could you break that down? The context, fear, and
Yeah. So a lot of social engineering, for example, it will always act on urgency or context or fear. So it might be that something might, an email might say, click on this link to act now, otherwise you'll lose access to your systems. So you might then end up clicking on it. So it was that curiosity that became that real passion for me over the years I've been in the industry.
okay. Next is for someone new to the space, how would you explain cyber psychology and why is it becoming a critical thing in today's threat landscape?
Absolutely. So it's essentially the study of how human behavior intersects with technology, specifically how that intersection creates both vulnerabilities and opportunities in the security space. So the way I like to think about it is the vast majority of successful cyber attacks don't tend to happen because somebody's cracked unbreakable code. They happen because somebody was manipulated, deceived, or simply overwhelmed. So phishing emails, creating that urgency that I mentioned, still works. Social engineering still works. And it works because attackers understand that human psychology often far better than defendants do. And so cyber psychology will often ask, why do people make the decisions that they make? What cognitive biases make us susceptible to certain tactics? And how does stress, time pressure, or authority affect our judgment? And most importantly, how can we design systems, processes, and training that works with human nature rather than against it, and that's not just a tick box exercise to say, oh, we've done that training module, so therefore we're now secure. And it becomes critical because the threat landscape has changed absolutely enormously. AI, for example, it's made it easier than ever now to craft convincing personalized attacks at scale. AI deepfakes, they're becoming indistinguishable from real content, and yet so much of our security investment still goes into technology. And the human layer just gets that annual 30-minute, for example, e-learning module and a strongly worded security policy. And that's not good enough, I don't think, anymore in terms of that layered approach. But I think the industry is slowly starting to wake up to that.
And according to you, what do you think would work best for the industry based on the new current threat landscape?
So one of the things that I'm doing at the moment in my work is the rollout of tabletop exercises, of real world training, and actually using real world examples, things that will affect people in their day-to-day lives from a security perspective, because they will then cascade down into people's work lives as well. If you can get people thinking about their security posture from that personal perspective, you've got a much bigger chance of it then cascading down into their work lives as well.
Okay, that's interesting. So you recently founded AI and
Mhm.
Cybersecurity Association. How do you
Yeah.
see AI transforming both threat landscape and the way the defenders respond to them?
Absolutely. So the AI and Cybersecurity Association, that came out of a recognition for me that these two disciplines are converging and expanding at a pace that the industry is, not ready for. And we needed a space where professionals, organizations, and researchers could come together to navigate the convergence of AI and cybersecurity responsibly. And on the threat side, AI has been a genuine game changer for attackers. It's lowered the barrier to entry significantly, and you no longer need to be a sophisticated programmer to launch a convincing phishing campaign or generate realistic voice clones for phishing attacks, for example. And AI has made attacks faster, cheaper, more personalized, and much harder to detect. And we're also seeing that AI is being used to identify vulnerabilities, to automate reconnaissance, and also evade traditional detection methods. And on the defensive side, there's enormous potential because AI can help with threat detection at scale, with anomaly identification, and with automating repetitive tasks that would otherwise burn out analysts. But I think as well, we have to be careful not to see AI as a silver bullet because it also introduces its own risks. And that could be things like bias in models, adversarial attacks on AI systems themselves, and the danger of over-reliance on AI, which then might lead to complacency. And so what I always come back to is that AI is a tool. It's not a strategy. And the organizations that will fare the best are the ones that combine those strong technical AI capabilities with a clear-eyed understanding of the human factors around it, including the people operating those systems. So there should always be a human in the loop when it comes to anything to do with AI at all times.
Yeah. Through your work with Unity, you advocate for neuro-inclusive environments. How can cybersecurity teams, especially SOCs, particularly design for neurodiversity and turn it into a competitive advantage?
Absolutely. And now this is something I actually feel really strongly about. I myself am a neurodivergent person. I've been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and the SOC environment in particular can actually be quite hostile to neurodivergent professionals. And it's nobody's fault. It's often without anybody realizing it. Because in the SOC, you've often got high pressure, fast paced environments, often with very bright lighting, constant noise, constant alerts, frequent interruptions, and an expectation that everyone processes and communicates in the same way. And believe me, that's a recipe for burning out some of the most talented analysts in the field. And practically speaking, there are some things that teams can do right now that don't actually require a huge budget. And again, it all starts with that all-important awareness. So just helping managers understand what neurodivergent looks like in a working environment and what reasonable adjustments can mean in practice. And it can be something just as simple as offering written briefings instead of verbal ones, or providing a quiet space for focus work to take place, or even being flexible about hours rather than insisting on rigid shift patterns. But I think the bigger opportunity is recognizing that neurodivergent professionals bring skills that are genuinely rare and valuable in security because neurodivergent people can often be pretty good at things like pattern recognition, hyperfocus, an ability to spot anomalies that others might miss, a tendency to think in systems. And these often aren't quirks to be managed. They can actually be competitive advantages when the environment is designed to allow them to flourish. So practical advice that I often give is start with the conversation and involve neurodivergent team members in designing their own accommodations rather than making assumptions. But then crucially, measure that impact. And you might be surprised at what changes when people bring their full selves to work and can be made.
That's interesting. So let's dive into cloud security. There
Mhm.
are many cloud security certifications. How do you translate that theory into repeatable engineering practices for teams with limited resources.
Absolutely. Now, I'll caveat what I'm about to say by saying that this is actually slightly outside my primary lane, which is the human and behavioral side of security rather than the technical and engineering side. But what I can speak to is what I observe in the organizations that I work with. And there's often a significant gap between what people have learned in certifications and then what they're actually able to implement in resource constrained environments. So certifications will often describe ideal states. Real organizations are dealing with legacy systems, limited headcount, and very often competing priorities. And what I see working a lot is prioritization built on risk, not on certification frameworks. So you identify your most critical assets, your crown jewels, if you like. You understand your most likely threat vectors and you work outwards from there. You don't try to do everything at once and you build repeatable processes for the things that matter to you most. So that could be identity and access management, patch management, logging and alerting, and you do them consistently rather than perfectly. And I think as well, if you invest in your people, the best security tool in any security team is a team that understands what they're doing and why, that communicates clearly and that feels empowered to raise concerns. And that bit is crucial. So not having that sort of blame culture or fear culture. So if there is a concern or if somebody has clicked on something by mistake, the fact that they feel that they can report it without that blame culture or fear that they'll lose their job or any discipline or ramifications, that empowerment to raise those concerns is really important. And that's true regardless of whatever cloud platform that you're running on.
That's interesting. According to you, you've been in the industry for quite some time. As we are slowly winding down, could you tell us, according to you, what pivoted someone from the position of a starter to actually coming up with a whole community in cybersecurity?
Absolutely. What I've done over the years is create those communities. And I've created them often because I couldn't find them myself. And the UK Cybersecurity Association actually started like that when I founded it back in 2015. I was already a member of a few bodies here in the UK. So I was a member of the British Computing Society. I was a member of the Chartered Institute of Information Security. I was also at the time a member of the UK IT Association. That one today no longer exists. But what I was specifically looking for was an organization that I could join that was solely and only dedicated to individuals and organizations who actively worked in the cybersecurity industry. While the British Computing Society and the UK IT Association, as examples, had cyber, it was just an element of what they offered. It wasn't their full focus. And there wasn't a body or a community that I could join. So at the time, I looked around and I thought, I'll just start one. And that's how the UK Cybersecurity Association was founded. And for me, community is absolutely everything. I think we've got a fantastic cybersecurity community, not just here in the UK, but worldwide. I'm quite widely connected to a lot of prominent people within the community, and I love that I've got that network. I've got people that I can reach out to if something comes up, or I need a sense check, or I need to just run something past someone just to get their opinion. Just knowing that I've got that community behind me and those people behind me, that's helped in my career so much. I also run a monthly networking session called InfoSec Lunch Hour that actually started life during the pandemic, and I still run it monthly today. And what I love about those is we look at what's going on in the industry and we take a different topic and theme every month, and we'll have a real honest, no holds barred chat about it, and then I will put the insights out, but under Chatham House rules, so they're not attributable to any one person at all. And it's also a space as well where people can ask those important questions. or just get something off their chest. So we've had a big debate recently about the sheer number of different events and conferences in the cybersecurity space, and if we're at oversaturation point on those. And we can have that honest discussion. People can say things they wouldn't normally say. So for me, community is absolutely everything. A community is a big part of what I'll be taking forward with the AI and Cybersecurity Association as well.
Now, when it comes to growing membership, how far have you
Mhm.
gone, and how long did it take you to reach those specific milestones in terms of the memberships?
Wow. So with the UK Cybersecurity Association, it was actually really quick. I mean, we were fielding requests for organizations and people to join. We couldn't actually keep up with the demand. And the same is actually true now of the AI and Cybersecurity Association. We only officially opened at the beginning of the month, but we've already seen exponential growth and interest and people wanting to get involved and be a part of it. But one of the things I will say that I think is really important with any membership association or community, and I'd say this to anybody that's looking to join any trade body, is you only get out what you put in. And by that, I mean, I have conversations with a lot of people that say, oh, I've joined, or for example, I've joined the British Computing Society, but I'm not going to renew my membership next year because I've not got, a lot out of it. And I'll delve a little bit deeper into that, and I'll say to them, how do you mean? What do you mean you've not got anything out of it? Did you engage with them? Did you get involved in their events? Did you get involved in their policy, raising work and so on? And 9 times out of 10, people will say to me, yeah, well, I've joined and I've paid and I've just not got involved, or I've not done anything. And so that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give to anybody wanting to join a membership body or trade association. You get out what you put in. So when you do join, make sure you find out what the work streams are, what the project groups are, what things you would like to get involved in. So to this day, I'm still a member of BCS and I'm involved in their women and cyber group. I'm also involved in their neurodivergent working group. And it's really important to look for those specific project streams, get involved, have your say, and go to the events. And then you'll really get a lot of value from your membership.
Okay, that's interesting. Finally, if you could leave our audience with one message about the human side of cybersecurity, what would it be?
Absolutely. So I would say that security is a human problem before it's a technical one. And with the big emphasis on technology and tools, etc., that's not a criticism of it, because technology is absolutely essential. But every piece of technology is built, configured, operated, and ultimately trusted by a human being. And of course, we as humans, we're complicated, contextual, we're emotional, and of course, we're fallible. And that's not a flaw to be engineered around. It's a reality that we to be designed with. And when we accept that, when we genuinely build security culture and security thinking around how humans actually behave rather than how we wish they would behave, we become so much more effective. And so, for example, we create environments where people feel safe to report mistakes and where training actually sticks, where security isn't something that just happens to people, that's something they feel a part of. So the message I'd like to leave this with is know your humans. Invest in understanding them the way you invest in understanding your threat landscape, because ultimately they are your absolute greatest asset. And I really push back on this whole people are the weakest link when it comes to security. They're absolutely not. They can be your greatest asset. And when you treat them that way, they will become your strongest line of defense and definitely not your weakest link.
Okay. In 1 minute, give us your parting
Mhm.
shots.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me on the show. And I think the more that we normalize talking about the human side of cybersecurity, neurodiversity and the psychology behind all this, the better the industry will get for everyone in it. So for anyone listening, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on most other social media channels as well. Have a look at the AI and cybersecurity website, which is aisec.org.uk. And feel free to come along to InfoSec Lunch Hour once a month because it's free, it's inclusive, it's under Chatham House rules, and the next one is on the 3rd of June. So do come along if you would like to take part. And get in touch with me. I'd be happy to chat and answer any questions that any of you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. And see you all in the next episode.
Thank you.